These 7 signs indicate that you are chosen by God. There is a reason you are here. This message was meant for you. You felt it for a long time. The sense that your life is different, that you were not created to walk the same path as everyone else. You faced struggles, obstacles, and moments that tested your faith, but deep down, you know something greater is calling you. What if I told you that these challenges were not random? That the very things you thought were holding you back were actually shaping you for something far beyond what you can imagine? The Bible makes it clear. God chooses specific people for divine purposes. He does not pick at random. He sets apart those whom he calls, refining them like gold through fire. But how do you know if you are one of the chosen? There are unmistakable signs, indicators that God has placed his hand on your life. And once you recognize them, everything changes. You will no longer question your purpose. You will no longer feel lost. Instead, you will walk with boldness, prosperity, and authority because you will finally understand what has been happening in your life. Today, we are going to uncover these 7 powerful signs that indicate you are chosen by God. These are not simple ideas. They are scriptural truths that have been present in the lives of every person God has called, from Abraham to Moses, from David to Paul. If these signs are present in your life, then you are not just another person on this earth. You are part of something much greater. Your journey is not random. Your struggles have purpose. Your life has divine significance. Are you ready to discover if God has anointed you for something extraordinary? Sign 1, a deep sense of purpose that never fades. You've always known that you were different. While others are content with a simple existence, you have never been able to settle for a life without meaning. There is something inside you that craves more than just surviving, more than just working for money, more than just existing. It's as if your heart is restless, constantly searching for something deeper. That is because you were created for more. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This means your calling was placed on you before you even took your first breath. Your purpose was assigned long before the world even knew your name. This deep sense of purpose is not something that fades with time. It's not a passing feeling or a temporary inspiration. It's a persistent calling that cannot be ignored, a voice that won't be silenced. No matter how many times you try to walk away from it, no matter how many distractions you use to drown it out, it always finds you again. Look at Joseph in the Bible. From a young age, he had dreams of greatness, visions of his family bowing down to him. Those dreams weren't just random thoughts, they were divine glimpses into his destiny. But what happened after those dreams? His brothers betrayed him. He was sold into slavery. He was falsely accused and imprisoned. To an outsider, it looked like everything was falling apart, like those dreams were nothing but delusions. But Joseph's sense of purpose never faded. Even in the darkest prison cell, something inside him knew that God had more for him. And eventually, those dreams came true in ways far greater than he could have imagined. The same is happening in your life. The setbacks, the betrayals, the moments of uncertainty, they are not signs of failure. They are signs that God is preparing you. He is molding you so that when the time comes, you will be ready. Have you ever wondered why you don't fit in with the world's way of thinking? Why the pursuit of riches and luxury alone doesn't satisfy you? It's because your spirit knows there is more. You were not called to live an ordinary life. You were chosen to impact lives, to influence, and to carry God's presence into the world. This unshakable sense of calling, this hunger for something greater, it is the first unmistakable sign that God has chosen you for something extraordinary. Sign 2, intense spiritual battles. There is something you need to understand. When God chooses someone, the enemy takes notice. The moment you step into your divine calling, resistance comes. Attacks, betrayals, sudden misfortunes. These are not coincidences. They are evidence that you are dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Look at the story of Joseph. God gave him dreams of greatness, of prosperity, of ruling over nations. But what happened next? His own brothers turned against him. He was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and falsely accused. It seemed like everything was falling apart, but in reality, God was positioning him for his destiny. This is what many chosen people go through. The enemy tries to stop you before you step into your purpose. The attacks come from unexpected places, sometimes even from family, close friends, or trusted people. You might face rejection, people misunderstanding you, or situations where everything seems to work against you. But here is the truth. If you were not called for something great, you would not be a target. The reason you face spiritual battles is because the enemy sees what you will become if you continue to walk with God. Look at Job. He was a man of great wealth, riches, and luxury. He had everything, a family, prosperity, and honor. But then he lost it all. The enemy attacked everything he had. But why? Because Job was a man chosen by God. And in the end, what happened? God restored him, giving him double what he had lost. The enemy does not attack people who are not a threat. The very fact that you have faced hardship, pain, and trials is a sign that God's hand is on you. It means your purpose is so powerful that the enemy is trying to stop you before you even step into it. Sign 3. Drawn to righteousness. Even when difficult, there is something inside you that won't let you walk away from God, even when you stumble, even when temptation surrounds you. There is a deep conviction inside that pulls you back. That is not normal. That is a sign that God has chosen you. The world tells you to chase after money, luxury, and riches without considering the cost. It tells you that you can do whatever you want, live however you please, and that nothing really matters. But something in you rejects that mindset. You feel the weight of your actions. You cannot be comfortable in sin. That is God's hand on your life. Look at David. He was anointed to be king, yet he made terrible mistakes. He committed adultery, orchestrated a murder, and yet he was still called a man after God's own heart. Acts 13:22. Why? Because when he fell, he always came back to God. His spirit could not bear to be separated from him. That is the difference between someone who is merely religious and someone who is chosen. Many people sin and feel nothing. But when you are chosen, sin makes you feel disconnected. You might try to ignore it, but something inside of you keeps pulling you back. That's because God does not let go of those he has chosen. You've seen this in your own life, the times you tried to follow the crowd, to blend in, to live like everyone else. Yet something always pulled you back. You cannot enjoy what others enjoy without feeling empty. The money, the luxuries, the success. It might feel good for a moment, but it never satisfies. When God chooses someone, he places his spirit inside them. That is why you feel conviction when others do not. That is why you feel uncomfortable in places that others celebrate. It is because you do not belong to the world. You belong to God. This conviction is one of the clearest signs that you are chosen. It is evidence that God's love for you is so strong that he will not allow you to destroy yourself. He will keep calling you back, pulling you toward righteousness. Sign 4, supernatural provision. There are moments in your life where you should have failed, where you should have lost everything. But somehow, God made a way. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is divine provision. And it is one of the most undeniable signs that you are chosen. When God calls someone, he provides for them. This does not mean life will always be easy or that money will fall from the sky. It means that even in the worst situations, God ensures that you have exactly what you need to keep moving forward. Look at Elijah in 1 Kings 17. There was famine in the land. no food, no water, and yet God sent ravens to feed him. And when the brook dried up, God sent him to a widow who had only a handful of flour and oil left. She thought she would die, but her supply never ran out. That is how God works in the lives of those he chooses. When it looks like there is no way, he creates one. Think about your own life. Have you ever been in a situation where you had no money, no resources, no plan, and yet somehow you made it through? Maybe you lost a job, but an unexpected opportunity came. Maybe your finances were tight, but suddenly the right amount appeared at the perfect time. Maybe you faced an impossible situation, yet doors opened in ways you could never explain. That is not luck. That is God's supernatural provision. God's provision is not just about money. It is about direction, protection, and opportunities. Many times, he blocks the wrong paths so that you end up where you are supposed to be. He removes toxic people from your life. He closes doors that you begged him to open, only for you to later realize he was protecting you from something destructive. Look at Joseph. He was sold into slavery. That looked like loss, but in reality, it positioned him for the palace. He was thrown into prison, another loss, but that loss placed him in the perfect position to be elevated to second in command over Egypt. Every loss was actually God's provision in disguise. That is how God works. Sometimes his provision does not look like a blessing at first. It might look like rejection, hardship, or failure. But if you look back over your life, you will see that every time something went wrong, it eventually led to something better. Sign 5, carrying the weight of others' burdens. There is something different about you. While others go about their lives focused only on their own success, comfort, and prosperity, you feel something deeper. You feel the weight of the world. The pain of others affects you deeply. When you see injustice, suffering, or people struggling, you can't just look away. This is not a personality trait. This is a divine sign. Look at Nehemiah. He was living in comfort, serving in the palace of the king. He had access to wealth, influence, and privilege. And yet when he heard that the walls of Jerusalem were broken down, he wept. Nehemiah 1:4 says, "When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven." Why would a man with everything feel so deeply about something that didn't directly affect him? Because he was chosen. And those who are chosen carry God's burden for the world. You've probably experienced this in your own life. You feel an urge to help when no one else does. You see beyond the surface. You recognize spiritual battles, hidden pain, and opportunities to make a difference when others just walk by. Maybe you have given to someone in need even when you didn't have much for yourself. Maybe you have stayed up praying for people who never even knew you were interceding for them. Maybe you have felt a calling to serve, lead, or fight for something bigger than yourself, even when it made no logical sense. That is the sign of someone who carries God's heart. When you are chosen, your spirit cannot be at peace while others are suffering. Your burden is proof of your calling. Sign 6, divine separation from certain people. Have you ever wondered why some people walked away from your life? Why certain friendships, relationships, or even opportunities suddenly ended even when you didn't expect them to? It may have felt like rejection, but in reality it was God's protection. When you are chosen, God will separate you from the wrong people, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Look at Moses. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by wealth, luxury, and power. Yet when God was ready to use him, he pulled Moses away from that life. Moses had to leave behind his status, his connections, and everything familiar before he could step into his calling. This is how God works. If you are chosen, you cannot stay connected to people who are not part of your purpose. It doesn't matter how much history you have with them, how much you care about them, or how much you wanted them to stay. If they are not aligned with what God is doing in your life, they will be removed. Sometimes this separation happens in painful ways, betrayals, misunderstandings, or sudden distance. Other times, It happens slowly, as your interests, values, and spiritual growth start pulling you in different directions. Look at Joseph. His own brothers betrayed him. The very people who should have supported him were the ones who threw him into a pit. But what they meant for evil, God used for good. Without that betrayal, Joseph would have never ended up in Pharaoh's palace, ruling over Egypt. Some people are not equipped to handle your calling. Some people are not meant to be part of your next season. And keeping them in your life would only slow you down, distract you, or pull you away from your destiny. You may not understand it now, but one day you will thank God for every door He closed. Because every time God removes someone from your life, He is making room for something greater. Sign 7, attacked but never defeated. There are things you have been through that should have destroyed you. There were moments where you thought you wouldn't make it, times when the pressure was too much, when the loss was unbearable, when the betrayal was too deep. Yet you are still standing. That is not by accident. The enemy has tried everything to stop you. He has attacked your mind, your finances, your relationships, your peace. He has used people against you, circumstances against you, and even your own thoughts against you. But through it all, God never let you be defeated. Look at Paul in 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. He says, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed but not in despair, persecuted but not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed." That is the life of someone chosen by God. The attacks come, but they do not win. The storms rage, but they do not break you. And the reason is simple. You are not fighting alone. Look at Job. He lost everything, his family, his wealth, his health. The enemy tried to take everything from him. But in the end, God restored him and gave him double what he lost. That is what happens when you are chosen. The battle is real, but so is God's protection over your life. You have been through the fire, yet you are still here. You have faced battles that others did not survive, yet you are still standing. That is because God's hand is on your life, and no attack of the enemy can change what He has planned for you. This is the final and greatest sign that you are chosen. You have been attacked, but never defeated. And if you are still here, that means God is not finished with you yet. If you recognize this truth in your own life, if you know that God has carried you through battles that should have destroyed you, then get ready, because what's ahead is greater than what's behind. Now that you know, what will you do? Now that you recognize the signs, the question is, what will you do with them? You cannot ignore what you have just learned. You are not here by accident. God has been calling you, refining you, separating you, and protecting you because you are set apart. You are chosen, but being chosen is not just about knowing, it's about acting. Will you step into your purpose, or will you let fear hold you back? Will you embrace God's calling, or will you continue to question it? The time for hesitation is over. The battles you have faced were not just to make you stronger, they were to prepare you for what comes next. So what is your next step? Will you commit to seeking God deeper? Will you surrender your plans, your worries, your desires, and trust that His plan is greater than anything you could ever imagine? Because the truth is, you were never meant to live an ordinary life. You were chosen for something greater, and now it's time to step into it. If this message spoke to your heart, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another life-changing revelation. Like this video if you are ready to walk in your calling, and watch the video on the screen right now. It will take you even deeper into your divine purpose. Your journey is just beginning. God has so much more for you.